In this video, we're going to talk you through how to use the data merge tool in Affinity Publisher in order to mail merge your target letters so that they can be individually addressed to different voters. Okay, so you can see here I've got an example of a target letter, and we simply want to add in the name and address of each individual voter so that we can make sure they get the right letter. So there's a few different tools within Publisher that we'll need in order to carry out the mail merge. The first couple of things we'll need are two of the Studio tabs. Okay, so if I go to View at the top and then Studio, you'll see you've got a list of all of the Studio tabs here. And the ones that we need here are the ones called Fields. So if I just click on Fields, you'll see it appears on the left-hand side. And we also need the Find and Replace Studio tab. So I'll choose that one as well, and that's now also appeared. Okay. The next thing we want to do is you open the Data Merge Manager in Affinity Publisher. So if I go to Document at the top and then choose Data Merge Manager here, and you'll see that opens up a pop-up menu. So within the Data Merge Manager, we can choose the mail merge file on our computer that we want to merge into this document. Now, you would obviously get that merge file by creating a list in Connect and then exporting it out of Connect as either a CSV or an Excel file. Publisher can cope with CSV and Excel files. So to choose that file, if I go to Add Data Merge Source at the bottom left-hand corner here, and then it'll open up my computer and I just need to choose the merge file. So here is an example and click Open. Okay, and you'll now see that within the Data Merge Manager, we've got the file name appearing here. It's telling us on the right-hand side how many fields there are within that file. So that's fields as in name, address line 1, address line 2, etc. And how many records. So the records is the individual, like how many rows of voters are in this document, and in this case there's just 12. Okay, you've also got options here to filter how many of the records you want to merge. You can either merge all of them or just choose a range of them. Okay, but we'll stick with all. And I will come back to the other things further down in a second. Okay, so now that we've loaded that merge file in, you'll also see in the Fields Studio tab under Data Merge, we've got a list of all of those fields, those 13 fields that are in this file. So we've got the van ID, envelope name, address 1, 2, 3, city, postcode, etc., and a few others that may or may not be useful depending on what you're doing. So the next thing we'll need to do is we'll need to add those fields into the document. So to do that, I would first of all draw a text frame like this one here, and rather than type into this text frame, in order to get these field names into the frame, I just need to double click on them in the Field Studio tab. So if I double click envelope name, address line 1, address line 2, address line 3, etc. And you might also want to include the walk code possibly, but I'll stick with just the address and name for now. Okay, and you can see that now we've got those fields in our actual document. I can put them on separate lines by just moving the cursor in between them and clicking Shift and Enter. Okay, so that they all appear on separate lines. And obviously I can also make the text bigger and smaller. So let's say if we wanted it to be 12 point rather than the default of 10 there, for example. Okay, and you can obviously also alter the leading and everything else. Okay, so we've now got the fields into the document. If we want to see our data, how it will appear in this document, we can go back to the Data Merge Manager, and under Preview, if we tick preview with record, you'll see it now shows the merged data, and I can scroll through the different fields, the different records, and you'll see all the different names and addresses will appear as we go through. Now, one thing you probably noticed is that for some of the addresses, if there is no address line 3, so in this one, for example, we're getting a blank line in between each, in between the two, address line 2 and city. Now, in an ideal world, we don't want that gap. So what I'm going to do for now, and I'll show you how to fix this later, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the mail merged fields so that they're all back on the one line. And I'm going to stick a $ in between each mail merge field here, okay? And it'll become obvious why we're doing this later on when we've merged the document. Okay, so if I now preview, you'll see all the lines, all the fields appear individually with a $ between them. And you'll notice that in that first example, where there is no address line 3, we're getting $2 next to each other rather than one and the data and then another one. Okay. Okay, so we've now merged our document. The next thing we'll want to do is to generate a merged document that has a separate page for each individual record that we can then use to print from. So you'll see at the bottom here, we've got merge pages. You need to make sure the merge enabled box is ticked, and we want to merge all pages because there's just one page in this document. So if I then click on generate here, and you'll see it's merging. And now what it's done is it's created us a new document, an untitled document here, where there are 12 pages. And if I scroll through the pages here, you'll see that each one has different names and addresses because it's merged for the different households. Okay, but obviously you'll see that the addresses have all got these $ in between. Okay, so the final thing we need to do here is just to fix that. So if I go to the find and replace tool this time, and if I type the $ in there, if I type the $ in 3 times first, and I want to replace any of those with a line break here. Now, the reason I've put several $ in here is because you might find when you merge addresses that there are more than one of the address lines that are blank for some households. Some households will have address line 1, 2, 3, postcode, etc., but some might only have address line 1 and have a blank address line 2, address line 3. And for those records, you will get those space gaps that we had earlier. But by sticking these $ between each merge field, what you will instead get is if there are 2 merge fields that are blank, you'll get a couple of $ next to them. If there's none at all, you'll just get $1. Okay, and if there's 3, you'll get $3, etc. So that's why I'm sticking in $3 first. And if I then find any of those in the document, and there aren't any of those, so that's fine. If I then go on to finding $2 next to each other, you'll see there are a few of those. They've now shown up here. And if we replace all of those with a line break, okay, you'll see those lines, you'll see that those have now disappeared. And then if I change it again to just 1, okay, and obviously there's a lot more of those, and if I replace all, you'll now see that we're getting, so this in this first record, for example, which is one that didn't have an address line 3, you'll now see that all of our address lines appear on separate lines. And in this one's case, it doesn't have anything in address line 3. So rather than having a space, we just go straight to the city field there. Whereas if I scroll through to maybe one of the other ones, here, for example, this one does have 3 address lines, but they're still appearing on separate lines. So the dollar symbol is helping us split those lines and create a line break. Okay. So we've now got our merge document. Obviously, there are other things you might want to do. I could have put in dear envelope name at the start of the letter here, and you probably would do that. You can do that in exactly the same way. You would probably also want to include the walk code, maybe the polling number or something like that, or a sequence code in smaller lettering underneath the address, just to help you keep them in order when they're printed, etc. But essentially what we've done is we've now got a file that has got each individual letter as a separate page individually addressed. And then in order to print them, you just need to go to File and then Print, and print them in the normal way that you would.